Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome back to the Big
Jazz
Things
hands,
from the Big Story podcast. You like my big things? Hold it out while you did your jazz hands. Craig is back.
Sorry,
Hey,
I got lost for a second.
welcome. Thank you for being here.
Good to be back. I've enjoyed Kay and
Oh, man.
all the other guests and all that.
Kate was great. I think she was, if you guys couldn't tell, she was nervous.
Yeah.
It's pretty intimidating to come in here in this little room and
She
sit
did
in
great.
front of cameras and talk to Harold because,
Well,
he's a scary guy.
You're imposing. Yeah.
But she did awesome. She did a great job, especially with all the Old Testament, Nehemiah, Ezra stuff that we were covering. She did a great job last week. So
Yeah. I keep waiting for you to flannel up again.
I am ready. I'm ready for it not to be
For the summer, I was going to, cut off some of the sleeves and just give
Very
you, a
hillbilly.
sleeveless,
just all the way up. Just no sleeve at all. Just go for it. Flannels with no
flannel
sleeves.
wife beater, I guess. I don't know. It's weird.
But I did. I asked Alexa this morning when I was getting ready. I was like, because it looked a little overcast,
It's
a little rainy.
cooler than it has been.
I was like, hey, Alexa, what's the temperature going to be? I'm sorry if I just triggered speakers in your house, but
Alexa.
and she
Sorry.
was like,
Not sorry.
oh, it's 75 today with a high of 95 that'll feel like 108. I was like, I don't think that's quite cold enough for a flannel yet.
Not
but Craig,
ready. Not ready.
soon.
Yeah.
We will be. I mean, the trees has got a little leaves falling. I don't know if
My
that's
wife and I had that conversation. She goes, "Look, if fall's coming," I said, "No, that's called drought."
Yeah, I think it is
when
right.
there's not enough water, the trees
100 degrees
drop
and,
some
and
of their
no
leaves.
rain. Yeah.
Yep.
But I'm thinking optimistically.
I like that.
Yeah.
So go out and buy your pumpkin spice, whatever.
You don't need to give Courtney permission. I am not a pumpkin person at all.
Courtney, make sure we have some here.
Yeah, she
will
will.
in a couple of weeks when I'm back.
You want some pumpkin spice latte?
Not
when you
really.
come? In September? I think that's at least in October.
I'm a mocha guy. That's just
October
where I
thing.
live. I'm pretty boring.
How have you been? It's been
well,
a couple
blessed. Yeah, it's
busy
been
weeks.
slow.
Okay.
Looking for churches that like to have us come talk about Hope Harbor. Had a couple folks that their church schedule changed, and so I had a couple open Sundays this month, and felt weird being at Blue Star, but it's a good place to be.
I was happy to have you here.
Yeah, it was good.
mean,
it was good.
I hear Craig every time that he's here. Of course,
preach the
you're not
word.
here all the time. You give me the preach the word, and that is not only a sunset thing, but a scriptural thing that is just encouraging. Just one sentence.
There's other things you could be preaching, but preaching the word is the best thing.
Absolutely. So I don't really give you a full blown response while I'm walking up there, but I usually give you a little.
Well, I was hoping to trigger. We got some other Sunset guys out there.
Yeah,
I'm hoping
I know.
they go, hey, preach the word.
Get it going.
Yeah, preach it, brother. Come on, brother, preach it. But we're kind of quiet.
We got a little spirit in the crowd. Sunday, I kind of invoked it a little bit. I think I said, "Can I get an amen?" I was trying to bring it, and I did. So.
I do that at churches. I said, I don't know if I'm get in trouble with your preacher or not, but I will tell you, if you say amen to your preacher, that's like saying sick him to a mean dog. It'll amp everything up. It's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that just tells the preacher, I'm connected to what you're saying. Let's go.
Yeah, and when you start to know a congregation, you got those people. You can kind of watch how they're reacting and see if you're completely off track or if you're on a good path there. And so I've got those people.
And you
that I check
guys
out.
been here just over a year now. I know. Me and Hope Harbor, same thing.
Yeah, we went to Bible camp. So we just went to Bible camp 2 weeks ago, right? And when we came back last year, because we were living out at Hope Harbor, I was like, wow, we got neighbors because we had you guys moved out there.
Yeah,
and
Moguses.
the Moguses had moved out there. I was like, man, miss a week and the whole neighborhood changes.
Stuff started getting mowed and cleaned up and all that. It's really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
well, you ready to dive in today?
let's do it.
Of course.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, it is August 24th. We have made a lot of progress throughout the 1 Year Bible. I have to give a shout out to Bo Ford, which you guys have seen him. He's been on the podcast twice. He finished the 1 Year Bible, and I want to remind us, it is August 24th today.
Yeah.
And so he was showing off, not that he retired his 1 Year Bible, but he gave it to a friend. He got himself a new leather bound, and got the little stamp of his name and everything. Got himself a new Bible to start reading through
Invested.
it in the new year or in another time. It's not a new year yet, but he's going to go for it again in his personal Bible so he can take notes and stuff and keep them. And so very encouraged by that. Good job, Bo. That is incredible.
There you go. Keep going.
Yeah.
Finish a second time. 1 year, I finished the daily reading twice in 1 year.
Wow.
And I got to say, though, to make that happen, you take a lot of shortcuts.
Yeah.
and so it wasn't quite as beneficial. Yeah.
Were you doing the chronological that time or just a plan?
No, it was a planned one. Yeah,
absolutely. And that, we haven't talked about that a lot, but this is really just a Bible reading plan printed in that order for you. And it's, nothing special. So whatever plan that you're doing, of course, we're following along together through this 1 year Bible version of the plan. But
I bet some of those in a different reading plan would be able to say, hey, I saw something parallel in mine, not the same text, but, share those on Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely.
Messages and stuff.
We've got a Facebook group. We've got the comments down below. That's all linked in the description. If you don't know what we're talking about, that's a great place to find it. But this week, we are talking about what we read in August 17th, last Monday, through the 23rd, yesterday, in the 1 year Bible. And we covered the last chapter of Nehemiah, the whole book of Esther, and 11 chapters of Job. So we really started getting into Job's story pretty significantly in the Old Testament. Yeah. And in the New Testament, we hung out in 1 Corinthians all week this week, in 1 Corinthians 11 through 15:58.
This is important text there.
Yeah,
this is stuff that changes.
Yeah, there's everything. a lot of good. Yeah. I don't know if I want to say details, but instruction, description for the church that we could probably hang out for a long time. So we'll see where we go. We might be here a couple hours today. I don't know.
Could be. Small print, I see.
I told Craig, I'll tell you guys right now, I didn't do such a great job of recapping the Old Testament because, man, there's just too many different pieces. So bear with me. Interrupt. Let me catch my breath every once in a while if you want. Craig, go for it.
Hey, so I'm trying to be good today.
We're going to talk about Nehemiah first. In the Old Testament, like I said, we finished out the last chapter, and we pick up where we left off. The city walls are all rebuilt. The people are rejoicing. We see this celebration here at the end of chapter 12. The priests and the Levites are given assignments around the city. Things are looking really good. But then we hop into chapter 13, and this is what we end the book of Nehemiah with. And in the conclusion, we see Nehemiah return to Jerusalem again, and he discovers, can you believe it, that the people have started neglecting God's commands yet again. And so there's rooms in the temple that have been dedicated to people, other purposes. The Levites have not been properly supported. If you remember in God's Old Testament commands, they're supposed to be supported by the people. People are working on the Sabbath, making sacrifices on the Sabbath, against God's commands. And then this one kind of just took me back. I remembered what we read at the beginning of the week. Yet again, the Israelites have been marrying foreign wives. Ooh. And that was kind of the kickoff of all of this, right? And so when Nehemiah comes back into the city, he's got to confront these problems as a prophet of God. And so he does that. The people actually return back to God. They start to worship and obey again, kind of make another turn. And I think this chapter just kind of emphasizes that we as God's people need to continually guard our faithfulness, guard our righteousness. We can't just assume that we were good in the past, so we'll be good moving forward if we pay no attention to it. Yeah. He's got more tricks up his sleeve than that to just let us be.
He does, and one of his favorite ones, and it's a picture that takes place in Israel and Palestine, is the difference between the Jordan or the
rivers?
Well, the seas. You get the Dead Sea and Sea of Galilee. There you go.
Okay.
The difference between the two is one has life flowing in and out of it, and the other one just absorbs. It just and that can really describe our spirituality. We get stagnant. We take stuff in, and Harold said this and Harold said that, and those are all good things. But if we're not sharing it, if we're not out there, moving on with our faith to benefit others, so
anyway, absolutely,
that's free.
So we got the last chapter of Nehemiah. You couldn't neglect it. We had to talk about it a little bit. But then we spent a good chunk of time, and I really like this little book in the Old Testament, the book of Esther.
It's my wife's favorite.
It's a good one. It's been a while since I taught it on a Wednesday night, and just sitting down, having coffee, and talking through Esther is a really fun task if you're looking for a Bible study. But we're going to move, of course, we were in Jerusalem. We're going to move over to Persia, and specifically we are in the capital city of Susa for this story. And, we look at the entire story of Esther this week, and we start off in chapter 1, and we see the king of Persia, and he's having this enormous celebration, and really, the celebration boils down to, let's celebrate how powerful and wealthy I am, and, good king behavior. And his queen, how do you say her name?
Vashti.
There you go. I knew Craig would get it really good. I was going to say Vashti. That doesn't seem quite right.
Yeah,
Vashti.
people from Oklahoma might say Vashti.
Yeah.
Kentucky, I don't know.
But she's not having it. She doesn't want to have this celebration.
Well, that's what he asked for.
Yeah.
To come, be my red hot wife. Show her off. And
that's what he wanted. I mean, that's kind of his, at the beginning of the story, that's his whole vibe, if you will. He wants a beautiful wife on his side, right? But she refuses. And so, what's a king do with a queen that refuses? Say, yeah, she's out of here.
Boom.
And so she's gone, and he's going to look for another queen to take her place. And so we kind of have these open auditions, if you will, for a new queen. That's where Esther enters the story of Esther. And it's in chapter 2 that we actually see her coming into the story, because she's brought to the king's palace. She's a young Jewish woman, and her cousin Mordecai is the one who raised her and kind of, leads her to this path here. And he instructs her not to reveal that she is Jewish, just yet, at least. And so Esther, goes through the auditions, if you will. She wins the king's favor. She becomes queen. And that all happens pretty quickly here in chapter 2. Also in chapter 2, Mordecai discovers a plot against the king, a plan to assassinate him, and he reports it to the new queen. And, he's guarding and looking out for this king that's not even of his lineage, right? And so as we enter into chapter 3, we see Esther holding the throne of queen, and we see Mordecai doing this amazing thing for the king, making sure he's protected. And then we get the third character of the main characters in this story, a man named Mordecai. Mordecai and now Haman. Sorry.
Haman, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I skipped people there. Haman enters the story, and he has been promoted to a position of great authority in the kingdom. And, because of that, everyone's expected to bow down before him. But Esther's cousin Mordecai, he refuses.
No part of that.
He's a man of God. He worships God alone. We see this as a continual theme in the Old Testament. We're going to see it more as we keep reading, especially with Daniel and things like that. And so, but obviously, if you're a man of power like Haman and somebody refuses to bow down to you, that doesn't sit so well with you. And so Haman's whole plan is, not only am I going to punish Mordecai, but I am going to destroy the Jews. They need to be done with. And so he comes up with this entire plan to destroy the Jews throughout the Persian Empire. And the way that he's going to do this, through a little bit of trickery, he convinces the king to issue a decree to authorize all the Jews' destruction throughout the land. And so they set a time, they set a place that this is all going to take place and the Jews are going to be killed. Yeah. Obviously, that's not good for the Jews, not good for Mordecai, not good for Esther, even though she's not really revealed that she's a Jew yet. Yeah. And so Mordecai goes and encourages Esther to do something about it. Your people are going to be wiped out. And she says, well, I can't just go before the king. He's going to kill me. I have to be welcomed in. Yeah. And so that's a valid concern. But Mordecai reminds her that perhaps she has been placed as queen by God for just a time as this. Yeah, there you go. There you go. We'll talk about that a little more, I feel like. And so that challenge that she's asked to go do is given back to the Jews. She said, why don't you go fast for 3 days, and I will prepare to approach the king and defend you. And so in chapter 5, we see Esther doing just that. She enters the king's presence, and she's not killed. She receives his favor and is welcomed in. And rather than just telling him all about all the drama, the plot of Haman's, she invites both Haman and her husband, the king, to a banquet the following day. And of course, Haman, he loves this because, he's being honored even more by the queen herself, given a banquet. But on his way out of finding out this great news, guess who he bumps into? Mordecai again. And he's still refusing to honor him. So he just gets fired up on his way home. And he gets home, and he must have been ranting about it to his wife pretty heavily because she says, you know what? Why don't you just build a giant gallows. Make a spectacle, hang Mordecai in the most egregious way so everybody will know what you're about. And, it's during that night in between that transition, a lot happens. As we enter into chapter 6, we kind of go from Haman back over to the king. And it's interesting. He can't sleep. And so he needed something boring to listen to. And so he has the royal records read to him. And he realizes, hey, Mordecai did this incredible thing. He saved me from an assassination. Was he ever recognized and rewarded? And he realizes no. And so the king calls in Haman in my mind movie in the middle of the night.
That's funny.
And he's like, hey, what should we do for someone who needs great honor, needs to be treated like royalty? How can we lift them up? And Haman's like, oh man, he's talking about me again. The king loves me.
I am the man.
And so he describes, the best thing he'd ever want. He wants an elaborate celebration, public glorification, have people bow down. Yep. And of course, he's thinking about himself.
Yeah.
And then the king says, well, that sounds great. Let's do that for Mordecai. And of course, this humiliates Haman.
Do you think the angels were laughing during that?
I don't know,
this
man.
Is good, God. You did good.
There is. The story of Esther has just got a lot of good nuggets in it. And so, of course, he walks out of there. He's just furious at Mordecai even more. In chapter 7, the next day, we see Esther's banquet taking place. She finally reveals that she is a Jew, that Haman has plotted to destroy her people. And, the king is furious about this. He discovers that Haman has really kind of sneakily made this happen. And then he hears about the gallows that he prepared for Mordecai. And his response to that is, perfect, they're ready for you, Haman.
There you go.
And so Haman is executed on them himself. And the enemy's plans begin to collapse as we enter chapter 8. But the thing about a decree is you can't go back on it.
It's got the ring.
Yeah, it's sealed.
On it.
It's sealed. So what is the king going to do so all the Jews are not killed? Well, he makes another decree, and he says, why don't you get every weapon that you can and defend yourself if people try and kill you? And it's kind of a good countermeasure to it all, because in chapter 9, we see that day arrive, and the Jews very successfully defend themselves against their enemies. Yeah. And what was intended as a day of destruction becomes a day of victory. And Mordecai establishes this celebration for the Jews to remember that it wasn't from Esther, wasn't from him, it was from God that they were delivered from this. And so that's kind of how the book of Esther ends in chapter 10. We see Mordecai is now elevated to a position of authority. He's under the king. He's continually honored, and he is now serving God in this royal position for his people, the Jews. And so it's a cool little story. I didn't want to skip over Esther at all. All right. I told you it wasn't a quick summary. Here we go. Last one we read about this week. Job. And I'm going to try and quickly talk about Job. Yeah. So Job is interesting because we don't really know exactly when it takes place. There's no indicators to that. Some people dig really deep to try and find some. Some scholars say it's maybe the oldest story we have in the Bible. Again, we don't really know. But we read 11 chapters of this story and this character of Job. And as we enter the story, the thing we know about Job is that he is a righteous man. He faithfully follows God. And Satan, he approaches God and he says, he's just righteous because of all the blessings.
Put a hedge around him.
Yeah. A hedge of protection, And God says, well, you know what? You have permission to take away those things. And Satan's, he's all about that. And so God allows Job to be tested by Satan. He loses his wealth, his children, his health. The rule is he can't die, right? Yeah. And in all of these devastating circumstances, Job refuses to turn to God, or to turn away from God.
Yeah. And his wife had a good, cheerful comment.
He's got a lot of cheerleaders. And
just curse God and die.
Yeah, curse God and die from his wife.
She must have insurance on him. I don't know.
Life insurance, right? And that kind of leads me in Act 2, I guess you could say, of Job is, again, Satan visits him, gives him more calamity in his life. He's given more permission to take even more away. Yeah. He's still faithful. Yeah. And then his friends show up. And again, not great cheerleaders. We see three friends here in the story: Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar.
You said those real well.
Yeah, I practiced them earlier. Yeah, sometimes you practice. And even though I think their intent is to go and comfort Job in this time of calamity when they get there, they don't do a great job of that. No. Because they start to kind of get frustrated and they want to argue with him. And the argument for each of them is, well, obviously you've sinned against God. You've done something wrong. Look how he's cursing you. And that's a mindset we can get into as humans to this day, right? Like, why is God giving me this? And Job, he's standing firm. He says, I'm serving God. I'm living for him. I don't think that's the course. I'm going to keep being righteous to God. And they just get frustrated with it, right? They can't win the argument. And so Job just maintains that he's not done anything sinful to deserve such struggles and suffering, but he is continually seeking out God. He's asking for answers of what's going on. And by chapter 11, kind of where we end up this week, his friends have become even more and more critical. But Job remains convinced that there must be something more to this suffering than just simply being punished for being evil. And so we're kind of in the middle, not even quite the middle of the whole story of Job, but just kind of in the middle here, this weird place where everybody's arguing with Job, but he's staying faithful to God. And so lots in the Old Testament this week. Did I not put your Old Testament thoughts in there? They're on there. They're on here. So, but lots in the Old Testament this week to cover. We could talk about the end of Nehemiah, the whole story of Esther, and of course, Job. There's a lot to go on there. So I'm going to take a breath and let you say something, Craig, whatever you got.
Well, normally I got this on the screen.
I'm sorry. I've got your New Testaments up there. I don't know what I was thinking.
We'll be fine. Esther was one of my interest. And again, part of it is because my wife is always, and you just threw my notes on the floor.
You can't let me go anywhere.
So my wife, a huge fan of Esther, and we've watched, there's some a movie about Esther and stuff like that. It was really, really well done and all that. And so I find this is one of those situations where I feel like God has a wonderful sense of humor with a little sarcasm sprinkled over the top of it, that all these things look like they're going one way. And there's so many life lessons in that. You think it's heading this way, and it's dire and end of the rope and all that kind of stuff. And God says, well, I don't think so. Watch this.
And incredible storytelling, if you will, from God, too. It's just
beautiful. And
beautiful,
God's people win. And by the way, is there any other book in the Bible where it shows, despite all the circumstances, God's people win?
Yeah.
Book of Revelation and others that are like that. Yeah. So it's really interesting to see how that plays out, but also how faith building, Mordecai, he seems to have great faith, but you got to imagine he's going, well, I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, God.
I didn't see how you were going to deal with Haman like that.
I don't know what the Hebrew word for cool is, but I'm sure, that must have popped out,
I wish I knew, and I could just say it right back to you. It's really impressive.
It's actually here in Esther, cool. So, but it's such a wonderful reminder. The biblical critics would say there's too much humanity in scriptures for them to be really valid, or and all that. We've been doing a lot of Christian evidences here on Sunday morning and all that with Jordan. But the fact of the matter is, it's some of the biggest drawing card. Is there's room in this kingdom thing of God for me.
Yeah, people operate.
And I've been on the other side of things and been able to witness, and we've been blessed. My wife and I. In ministries and all that kind of stuff all the time. We just, and Jordan did a great job yesterday. He only made us cry about twice, but his song service and all that was wonderful, and others do the same thing. Steve does a great job and all that as well. So I kind of gauge worship service on did it move me? Yeah. Did it kind of tickle the tear ducts, kind of thing, But, we have it so good. But every once in a while, there's stuff that is a little disappointing or upsetting in life and all that, and losses and other things. And then you're like, but God just keeps putting us back in the middle of Him.
And it's it's incredible how He uses, like we're using our modern day example of like an assembly like we had yesterday. Yeah. And, in the midst of when you might be feeling down, He uses things like that to remind you, no, I'm here, and check it out. It's powerful, and that's.
You said something at the very end when you got done, and I thought, perfect. It was the dot at the end of this, the period, and you said, I love you, church. Yeah. And we don't tell each other that nearly often enough. And what a blessing it is to be here, but also, man, I love you. There's other places I could be, but this is where I want to be, and I love you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I love you.
I love you too.
Good man. Good man.
Good man. I like the story of Esther. I just think it's it's sometimes I think it's one of those ones it's easy to skip over because it's smaller. It's
kind of pretty. Yeah.
Yeah. It's still too girly for us men.
Yeah, well,
I don't know why it would be. There's a giant gallows that a man gets hung on at the end. That's pretty serious if you ask me. Pretty manly. But it's just the prevailing power of God in lots of circumstances. This would be a lot like some of the circumstances we deal with, just adapted to today. And it's so cool to see a kingdom completely changed.
And that really segues into Job.
Yeah.
Here he is minding his own business, but he's really not. He is invested in his kids, in his household, his servants, all these things, and he's offering sacrifices just in case.
Got a lot going on
what's
in
the chance,
life. Yep.
the kids got together and they had a little party and they gossiped or whatever kind of thing. Nah, I got you covered.
Took the Chevy to the levee. And you never know what happened. Buddy Holly wasn't in Job. I'm sorry.
No, he wasn't. So, but I love because... Could Job have complained when all I've done is behave?
Yeah.
I've done the best I can, and now look at this mess, And which of his kids would he have wanted to perish, let alone all of them but one?
Yeah.
And that's just tragedy upon tragedy. And losing the stuff was one thing. That's got to rock your world. Like, okay, how are we going to make our mortgage payment this month? We lost all the sheep and the goats and the camels and all that kind of stuff, And
I'm desperately sick. It's like,
oh man, we started having to scrape his wounds on the dust heap and all that, And again, we laughed about it, but I married so well, and I know you have as well too. But to picture me getting to a point where I'm like, and I've had a few ailments in recent history and all that, and to have my wife go, "Why don't you just curse God and die, Craig?"
Yeah.
Oh.
Am I that much of a burden?
Yeah. That takes a lot of wind out of your sails.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she's the one that's supposed to be going, it's okay, honey.
Yeah.
It'll be all right.
And
we've had rough times before.
And there is no indication, and I think sometimes we want to speak this into Job. It's not there, but there is no indication of Job ever wavering from remaining faithful. Obviously he's suffering, and I think there's a big, powerful message there that you can be suffering and faithful to God. You can identify the pain that you're going through and be faithful to God. That is in Scripture so many times. Just look through some of the Psalms too, But sometimes we don't act like that can be true, right?
Yeah.
We can't have hard times and glorify God through them. And that is nowhere near the truth. So please don't let that be the message you walk away from.
Well, they say the study of psychology is the study of man, and theology is the study of God. And I see in this the battle of theologies. This is what I think God does. And that's we're famous for saying this is what is really important to God, and this isn't, and God is really against that. You know what? We got a big God. He's capable of filling in all the spaces and saying this is a big deal. and I've worked a lot with teens over the years. One of the things that I told them in the art of Bible study is God doesn't underline, He doesn't italicize, He doesn't bold print or make bigger font. Instead, He repeats Himself.
Yep.
And so, what are the big things to God?
Yeah, and Job's friends definitely are coming at this from a different theological perspective.
My God would never do that. You
pretty sure
got to
I
be
know.
messed up.
And we do that. Yeah. We can fall into that trap sometimes too, right? Like I know the God that you serve. I know the God that I serve, and this isn't, type of answer.
Yeah, you've messed up somewhere. I promise you.
Yeah, but Job remains faithful, and again, we're in the middle of the story, and I don't want to give away the rest of it because we want to read it.
You're going to have to read it this week.
You're going to have to read it, and just as a powerful story. It's hard because we kind of usually sum it up quickly. I was telling Courtney this 2 days ago or yesterday. I was like, how do we talk about Job? We kind of just sum it up real quick because there's a lot of in between that's just, he's going through a hard time. He's talking to God. What's going on? But it is a really powerful message.
Well, and I teased you guys last night. You said you'd listen to it,
or
something like that. And I thought, that's cheating. You got to read it, And I thought, no, I just have a hard time taking notes, listening. And so for me, I got to read it and I underline, then come back and make my notes and all that kind of stuff, But for anybody out there, man, listen to it because then you get context.
Yeah.
A lot of things really come together. You get to hear, oh, that's connected to what he said 3 minutes ago. It's just a real beautiful thing. Anytime and any way you can get into the Word of God.
Absolutely.
Go for it.
Go for it. And you get to learn how to say people's names.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the reasons I listen.
Queen Vashti.
Yeah. All right, you ready for the New Testament? There's a lot of good stuff we could talk about all day today.
I wrote a note to you saying, man, this is going to be a long podcast.
All right, so the New Testament, I did a better job of recapping it, I feel like, because I was kind of on one track. We're in 1 Corinthians still, right? So, of course, this is Paul writing to his first letter to the church in Corinth. And this week, like we talked about earlier, we see a lot of details about how we should be the church, how worship should be conducted, how we gather together, a lot of things that are important for the church then and the church today. I think it's worthy of us taking note of. But we pick up here in chapter 11, and it's a topic that, we don't have all the backstory to, but it must have been important to the church in Corinth that we pick up with in chapter 11. And we wrestle with it in our modern context of what Paul kicks us off with here, because I think we have a hard time understanding how to apply it, right? Yeah. And so obviously there's some cultural stuff that we don't have a firm grasp on because we're not in Corinth. There's, just understanding what their worship service looked like and what ours looks like, just trying to figure all these out. But one of the first things he talks about is about women and men and praying and prophesying and head coverings and kind of how these all work together. And I think there's a lot that could be said there. But I think an important piece is the church in Corinth was really struggling with how they could be the body
identity
together.
And a lot of things.
Yeah, and so we'll see it a little bit too. People were kind of being pushed to the side while other people were being elevated. And you look back to the very beginning of the book, and some people were worshipped, kind of. And so I think that plays into all this stuff that's going on with the head coverings and things like that too. So I'm not taking a firm stance in my recap.
I noticed you stayed out of the gray areas.
Yeah.
But it is kind of worth taking a moment, though. And really, if this is a troublesome area for you, evaluate your own heart.
Yeah.
Do I have to win something? Do I need to be respected? Do I need to have a name for myself? And if it's all about you, maybe catch yourself in that and go, wait a minute, what's a message, a humble message for me in this, and how this might play out in my life, and how can I be a humble servant of God in this and not have to win? Yeah.
And even if, some of the context here is actually about being a servant in the first place. It talks about husbands and wives and a submission there as well before God. So it's just like these layers of humility and submission. And of course, I don't know, there's just a lot of things I could say that I don't want to get in trouble. So
I let's vote on that. How many of you vote we could be a little bit edgier than we are? Ooh. and you'd be okay with that?
Watch the comments,
make you think.
Yeah.
If thinking is a crime, then shame on us, because the scriptures are supposed to provoke the heart and the mind all the time. So
let's sharpen one another.
You don't have to be some kind of crazy or whatever kind of thing, but at the same time, what about this?
Yeah, you just have to be medium crazy to be on
a little
the podcast,
crazy, just a little. Yeah. And between the two of us, we're
there,
a little crazy. So.
Yeah. All right, the rest of chapter 11, because they're connected, right? I don't want to separate them.
The Lord's Supper.
Paul talks about the Lord's Supper, and he rebukes the church in Corinth specifically because they're having these gatherings and they're divided and they're selfish. It says some are getting a feast and getting drunk, some are getting none.
Some are getting ribs, some are getting bologna.
That's exactly how Paul words it. But it is kind of funny to think about it in that way, right? Of, how could this even be taking place? Because this is all supposed to be about remembering what Christ did and partaking with him, communing together. And so they're just really off track here. And so he calls them to examine themselves and treat one another with respect, because this is not about them. This is about what Christ did.
Yeah.
In chapter 12, Paul focuses on spiritual gifts. He explains, that we have different spiritual gifts. He uses this analogy of the human body to explain it, which is a fantastic one. We still understand, right? There's different parts. They do different things, but they all serve the body. So it is with our spiritual giftedness. And we all have a role to serve. Doesn't make any other part less important because we do different things than them. In chapter 13, Paul talks about about love, which was just convenient for me this week because that was this Sunday's sermon. It was all about love. And so I got to
Didn't you sing part of the song, All I Need Is Love?
I did. The Beatles there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they told us all
They say
about
it all.
They say it all. I don't know if that's what we're going with or not. But it was fitting for me. It worked out really well. I just got to talk about the 1 Year Bible in my sermon, basically. But of course, what Paul's talking about love here, we have some of the most famous verses about love, but he's tying it all back to what he's been talking about spiritual gifts, about serving God, about being humble to one another. He says all of that is pointless if you do not have love.
Yeah.
Because true love is patient, kind, humble, right? And so doing things in greater faith, doing all of this, it's just pointless if you don't have love. And so if we're going to be followers of Christ Jesus, the number one thing we need to focus on is that love. And I think that's the core of the message in chapter 13. As we enter chapter 14, like I said a minute ago, some more of those details about being the church, having orderly worship, spiritual gifts, which ones build up the church, which ones glorify you, talking about all of that. Paul kind of, his crux here, I would say, is that worship is supposed to be orderly, understandable, all together, right? And so don't be breaking off into pieces that some people don't even understand, and talking about in speaking in different tongues and stuff like that. Paul ends out our reading this week in chapter 15, and I think this is a great place to end in our recap too, because he says, all of these details I've talked about, the Lord's Supper, love, spiritual gifts, all of it.
Important thing.
The most important thing, what it's all about, it's about what Jesus did for us.
Death, burial, and resurrection.
Yeah. He raised from the grave for us. Up from the grave he arose. Because he was raised from the dead, we too are raised from the dead. I mean, that's what we look for, is the resurrection body, transformed, imperishable eternity that God has given us, all because of that. And so our call now is to remain faithful because of what God has done. Don't let it be done in vain. Let it be there for a reason. And so I think it's appropriate that that's where he brings us back to here in chapter 15. All of this instruction has a purpose, and it's because we want to glorify God in the gift that he's already given us. And so it's a beautiful little ending to our reading this week.
And I love this part in 1 Corinthians 15, because when I study with somebody, I take them to Romans 6. You died to your sins, you're buried with Christ, raised in newness of life. So those three things. And then I say, let's look at 1 Corinthians. It says the most important thing. Do you see those brought out in that? Death, burial, and resurrection of Christ, And so that is our embracing of the good news is in the act of baptism. Now, I find in even Christian culture the argument about necessity and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And again, if we're looking at an argument about, do I really have to do that, then there's a wrong heart involved in that.
Why are you asking that question?
It's a wrong question. It's like, what can I do? I mean, let's be honest. If God said we need window washers in heaven and that's your only way getting in, how many of us would wash windows? I don't know how to do them, but I'll do it. Let's do it, And so we shouldn't argue what we won't do or, can do or can't do and all that kind of stuff. But to me, when it matches up like that, the good news, my good news was on October 20th, 1979, I died to my sins, having nearly died in a car crash. Died to my sins. I was buried with Christ in baptism. I was raised in newness of life. And this Yahoo kid with long hair and a full beard was given a chance at real life. And the path that God has put me on,
Amen.
I'm 100% in.
So. I forgot your word, Yahoo. I'm glad it came back.
Not Yahoo to be mistaken with the chocolate drink.
I was thinking the website that we used to have as our emails, but I don't think we use it anymore.
Some
rest
do.
In peace.
Rest in peace.
But no, it's so important. Your analogy, why as humans are we always trying to figure out ways to work around exactly what God has described?
Somebody described one time, it is a little sarcastic, but it's like you believe in dry cleaning,
Well, hey,
I got wet.
Absolutely,
that's what I saw in Scripture. So,
and I mean, once we are brought into, baptism not only saves us for eternity, but it also does this powerful thing of bringing us into the kingdom on earth. Being a part of the church. And that's the things that Paul talks about the details of here in 1 Corinthians this week. Again, I mentioned it a little bit, but the mess of what Lord's Supper must have been, communing together for the church in Corinth.
Somebody's got KFC over here.
I love all of your modern analogies.
I think of food a lot. So
somebody's got McDonald's and somebody's got Chili's. They're not the same.
Ooh, yeah, that's true.
But it just points out what we've seen in this whole theme of some division going on.
And you're right, because they were following different people and perspectives and all that kind of stuff. And let me give you a different slant about God and all that. And whether it was right or wrong, if it doesn't keep you mainstream God and will of God and all that, well, then it's kind of messed up. It should bring us all together. I always love the fact I've got kids in New Zealand. I've got kids in Texas, which is kind of another country in itself.
Absolutely.
Kids in Oklahoma and all these other places. And all I can think of is like yesterday when we're breaking bread.
You're sharing in that.
Some already did the day before. They actually were leaving church and video chatting with us as we were getting done with church or something
Time
like
zones
that.
are crazy.
17-hour time difference and all that kind of stuff. But we're all doing it. I've got friends in Washington. I got friends in California. I got friends in Montana and Indiana and East Coast, Central Texas, wherever. And we're all doing it.
Yeah.
And it's so comforting, so powerful. And it falls right in the middle. We'll say it's the most important thing we do and take a few shortcuts sometimes with it. But, man, it really is. And it's like, this zenith before he gets to the 1 Corinthians 15 about the death, burial, and resurrection. Yeah. It's like the Lord's Supper is such a powerful part of who we are, our testimony, our lifestyles.
And I noticed on your notes here you had, the worthy, take it in a worthy manner. And I think a good challenge for us there is, what is this about? And sometimes it's easy to forget, right? It's not about us. Yeah. It's not a, and we make it about us sometimes by the details that we enforce one way or another. But this is about remembering what Christ has done, communing with him and communing together, right? And so that's the part.
A big deal.
That's the part that the church in Corinth was missing. Probably both communing with God and with each other in some way or another.
A child one time, was asking about, and he realized that communion was like the snack at the midpoint of the worship service. So not much of one, but a little piece of cracker and a little bit of juice. But it's got to be more. And God forgive us that we have expedited and rushed through the Lord's Supper. Yeah. When it's a moving, inspiring time, a worthy manner. I used to always think, well, man, I had to have a good week for that to take place. Well, no, the worthy manner is accepting the grace and mercy that he's extended. We are saved by the grace and mercy of God, not because of how good we are.
Yeah, not because of our...
Lord's Supper reminds us.
Absolutely. Well, what else did you see in 1 Corinthians that you thought was interesting? I know you've got a little bit on the spiritual gifts.
Well, and that's harder. Like we got into some of the question marks because in our society there's a weighted conversation about speaking in tongues. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you follow it and if you feel differently, then let's talk. That's fine. But the evidence I look at is the tongues. It's just described here and at Pentecost and other things. Acts, is language. Yeah, language. These people are. It's not to me. The miracle's not in their ears. The miracle's in the voices of the guys anointed by God to have those discussions and all that. And they're telling them the good news in the language that they know. Yeah. Now, context is these folks have come from all over. Europe and Asia and all that, and Hebrew, which they would be using in Israel, was not their first language. And suddenly, if you've ever been anywhere in a foreign country, you hear your accent. Like, we did that in Australia and Mexico and other places. Yeah. And so the miracle's not in the ears, whether that might matter to some people, but it's because those fellas also did other things in connection to that further down the road is why I say that. And
we have such a cultural disservice here, I think, because of recent history in the U.S., right, of thinking about what that term means. And it's like, let's just go back to the Bible and try and define and understand. Maybe we shouldn't be so scared of the term so we can use it properly. Yeah. And that's definitely one of the ones that Paul talks about here. This was a New Testament church long after the day of Pentecost, not long, but in history.
Well, and I love what Paul does with it too. He says it's not unimportant
Right.
But there's more important.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so the prophecy, which is the forthtelling of God, the covenant is breaking out, and they were told these signs will accompany those as they preach the gospel. Mark's Great Commission and all that, and so it is kind of a big deal. That they understand, continue to perpetuate the message of Christ wherever you guys go.
Yeah.
And so that might open a door for somebody, but most importantly is the facts and the figures of the things of God, that prophecy. Stay in God's wheelhouse with it all.
Absolutely. And then, like I said, I just think it's not the end of 1 Corinthians, but we just have this good little cap right here where we paused this week in chapter 15, where just Paul defines with the gospel what this is all about, with the good news.
Don't you love when he defines it? I mean, you look at the mystery of this and mystery of that, like, I'm not really sure
what are you talking
where
about?
to go with that. But then he says it's the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ. That's the good news.
It's not the good news. It's the best news ever.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Thank you. I like that.
Yeah, that's from a song. I can't remember. It's probably called The Best News Ever.
It's like Newsboys or something like that.
Somebody, yeah. Somebody more talented than me.
Put that in the comments. You'll figure it out for us.
Yeah, let us know. And say, Harold, you sang that. No, that was you. I was like, wow, I forgot about my platinum record. But yes.
Best news ever.
So our call that goes along with the best news is, of course, that we need to hold fast until we have received that eternal crown. Because, and I love how Paul phrases this, and we don't often talk about it like this. Don't make the sacrifice that Jesus made on your behalf be in vain.
Ooh.
Don't let it be pointless. It's like, wow, there's some power behind that.
Yeah.
Not just pressure, but power of why we do why we serve him.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Good stuff in the New Testament this week too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we could kind of sum it up a little bit quicker.
You ever feel like maybe there's good stuff in all of this?
Maybe there just might
daily Bible
I think
reading.
So. I think so. In fact,
we just have our favorites, I guess.
Yeah, and in fact, you sometimes bring me a little nugget from the Psalms and stuff that I'm not trying to pass over, but I see them. Yeah. So you're always welcome to talk about them.
I had some stuff, and there was, in Psalm 37. It was August 20th. It's kind of like conflict resolution. It's understanding. Just, hey, God's got this.
The evil and the wrong.
Yeah. And that's important because life isn't without conflict.
Yeah, absolutely.
And having conflict in your life doesn't make you a bad person, but how you handle your conflict is the voice that you listen to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So I can be in conflict with you, and maybe I choose, instead of hearing your words, I could hear there's mourning or hurt behind those words that make me soften.
Yeah, and that ties
how I interpret it
right into the story of Job that we read this week, right? I mean, some of those friends could have used a little bit of that emotional awareness or intelligence. I can't remember the emotional intelligence.
Well,
I think that's what it's called.
And little known fact, because it is a group of 4 guys. The wives, as the guys were leaving the house, and they're like, "Play nice."
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Well, we actually didn't go crazy long. We went a little long. But I do want to end us where we always kind of hang out. I just want to give you a nugget of wisdom from the week out of Proverbs 21:21. And we read this on August 19th. I just think this fits with the story of Job specifically. Yeah. But whoever pursues righteousness and kindness will find life, righteousness, and honor.
Amen.
That's what Job is clinging to. He's going to continue to pursue righteousness despite whatever the world's circumstances might be.
Yeah. And what a good place to be.
Yeah.
And safe. In the heart and will of God.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, if you guys are reading along with us, we'd love to hear your comments in the down below comment section or on our Facebook page, wherever you can connect with us. We'd love to hear from you.
Again, if you want us to be edgy, let us know.
Yeah, leave me a voicemail. I don't know. That happened. I apologized to Bo yesterday because he called me, and I thought I had him saved in my phone. And if you're not saved in my phone, leave me a voicemail. I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
But I get a lot of those calls, and he missed me because I didn't have him saved, and I felt bad. But I'd love to hear from you guys no matter how we get it.
He's a great guy. And if you're not a in the area of Blue Starr, you can walk up and down those aisles and find such wonderful, colorful people that love the Lord.
Absolutely.
And it's a good place. There's a good spirit at Blue Starr.
Yeah,
and I thank you for being our preacher.
Yeah. Keep on keeping on. Thank you for being here today.
Good to be
Craig.
here.
Yeah, it's great to have you back.
It's good.
I'm excited about next week's guest too, but you guys are gonna have to wait and see. But
I almost thought, who is it? I was going to blow it, but never mind.
Yeah. It's not Craig. I'll tell you that.
It's not Craig.
Much.
Yeah, well,
we got to keep him at an every
other
other week
pace. The visitor tag or guest tag. I guess I'm just Craig.
Just the regular visitor guy.
Craig. Just regular.
He's not
Craig.
here every week, but he's here every other. Yeah. So it's just Craig.
Yeah, just Craig.
All right, guys.
And Harold.
Yeah.
Jazz hands.
Thanks, Craig. I appreciate that. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being with us again this week. We will see you right here next week on the Big Things from a Big Story podcast.
Right. Well, listen, God bless you all, and enjoy your walk with the Word.
Absolutely.
And the Lord.
Absolutely.